Ready.
Yeah. Okay.
You're live. You're live.
Okay, here we are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Meteor Dispatches. And this time we are taking a bit break from our usual AI fun making and dread and existential crises, and looking at maybe another existential crisis, at least that we had. My name is Dvorak, aka Storyteller, and with me is
Küster from Germany. Hello.
Hello. So, Jan, recently we had the state of CSS, which is still open. And I told you to take it. So, what were your initial thoughts with this?
So I was totally smashed by the experience, not because it was a bad experience, because these state of surveys are a great experience and they are really great in general. I just found out that I lagged behind the latest CSS by about 10 years, and I got the first time in my professional career some FOMO feeling that was really new to me. And there were like two items I knew about, but the rest of that stuff was totally new to me. So I think it's a good try for every one of us to see how we deal with CSS and how we keep up with it. Because my thinking of CSS was very outdated before I took the survey. So I just can encourage you to do that as well.
Yeah. So, for me, when I took it, I knew probably a little bit more. But still, as with most of these surveys, whenever I take them, I have a long laundry list of things that I want to explore and learn. If I kind of go through quarter of them, that's a success. But my takeaway from this was that I kind of feel that CSS is becoming more and more of a programming languages or language in itself. A few years back it added variables. I think one of the new things this year is that it has functions, and it's just expanding. Of course, we have the classical expansion on all the different colors that you can do, the different widths and heights, and all those things. And I've prepared here, which I kind of want to share with you, and maybe to kind of also backtest if my theory is correct. I have here a list of things that I found interesting that I want to kind of look more into, and a few other things, because there is, one thing that I always find is there's always something more to learn for me in CSS, and this kind of also kind of brings me. I'm kind of wondering, but if Tailwind and even what I use is styled components, if we are kind of putting away learning about CSS and learning all these different things and just waiting for all the frameworks to kind of implement those things for us. If we are kind of, if it's not in a way also a bit similar with AI, we're just, well, let just AI do it, and I'll just kind of look if it looks good and instruct it later. So in a lesser way, maybe that's what's happening with using all these frameworks. And personally, for me, that's why, for example, use style components in React. So, and I only use like Area Kit for a little bit, but most of the things I really try to use, kind of build it all myself, because I kind of want to have more control about the design, which sometimes just these systems don't allow me, sadly, as you would probably say. For it will kind of destroy some of the other things that are beneficial, especially when it comes to mobile. So that's kind of my thoughts. But Jan, you said that Tailwind closely follows the CSS specification. Can you, I don't know, so can you maybe enlighten me about that?
So I don't want to say that this is their mission to follow it closely, but most of the stuff that is available in Tailwind is basically a reflection of what the CSS standards allows in a more accessible fashion for developers, or in a more integrative fashion, so that you don't need to have an extra style sheet but have the styles as they are, but available as classes. This is what you usually want. I mean, CSS is a lot of that stuff is combinable, can override itself, cascading, and Tailwind offers the same basically, just in terms of added classes. And I personally suspect that when these new features come out, that Tailwind will follow up with them in order to reflect what is out there, so that you can again use that stuff and create awesome themes with Tailwind. And I just wanted to add one thing here, by the way, because you said it becomes like a programming language. There's an interesting take, because CSS is a domain-specific language, so it can evolve towards a programming language. But I think, and that's the thing, the domain itself is mixing up between designing and interacting with things. So we more and more want to have an interactive design. For example, you want to switch between light and dark theme based on your preferences. This is on the one hand a design that is static, but it's interactive to the point that you want it to adapt to your needs, or things that are relative to screen sizes, computable. This is all why this is why I think there are these things like variables and computations are necessary. And so doing fancy stuff with CSS is desirable, because it's way more performant than using JavaScript for it, obviously, because it's part of the browser's rendering engine, and that uses your GPU if it needs. So I think it's not a bad development.
Yeah, I think, the big part is, we have now relatively still new, there's like, the color schemes that you can put, that you can also detect in CSS, what's your browser color scheme. Are you in the light mode? Are you in the dark mode? And from that, you can do a lot of things. So that is available. So you can even like, style things, you can detect things. This is just like one of the other schemes. If I kind of look here, I don't remember exactly all of them here. We have like Tailwind, but that's not what I was looking for. So there is I've read blocked for obvious reasons. So there are a lot of things like that. Or if you look here, for example, the new things that was introduced are these blend modes, where you can kind of put things, different colors with different transparency on each other, and you can see here it will then start blend and kind of do these colors. That I would that makes a lot of sense to me for CSS. That it will work with these colors. It will allow crazy crazy designs. I'm still looking for, I would say, maybe a bit more interesting when it comes to curves. I think the biggest change that we had was, for example, in borders, that we could add border radius instead of having very sharp curves or sharp corners everywhere. That was a big progress. We can talk about flags, how that changed, all the styling, and kind of going from tables. But then there is
but there's just let me add one thing shortly about these blend modes. If you just please go back to this blend modes. So maybe a few of you might have worked with Photoshop or similar tools in the past, and these are classic concepts from design theory, or from these tools, that you have certain color blend modes and they behave differently, and you can do very cool stuff with it once you understand them. But, and here's the thing, this adds another set of competencies to you and to me and to us all as developers and engineers, because now if you want to keep up, you also need to understand how these works. And it's not only full stack, it's full stack engineer plus designer.
Yeah,
So
that kind of I think that's an interesting question. Maybe if we can finally maybe drag the designers out of Photoshop and into CSS to kind of put them, hey, this is too complex for programmers to handle. Just freaking write your own CSS, which I think actually that's one thing that I'm trying a little bit with my designer, kind of trying to get him more into it. Of course, I have to kind of handle all the HTML and kind of, this is for example where Storybooks comes in, that I prepare for him all the components, and then here is the CSS, and make your design happens, because your design is pretty crazy and I need to get it. I should say, I need you to actually do it, or we just leave it to AI, and here's a screenshot, implement this design. Just kind of like a technical background. What happened was earlier today, there was could say big power outage, like in quarter of the country, and I got affected for a couple of hours. So I took my list of things I want to look into. CSS, put it into the AI, and it kind of generated this page. So I kind of had to cheat a little bit because I didn't have power on that. So that's kind of the designers. So that would be, I think, super interesting that we have to do. But as you say, this is getting us into that we need to start learning more and more, which is where we have Tailwind and all the other framework kind of being for many the saviors, because it's easier to just use the classes and the prepare components instead of kind of struggling, and I've struggled for quite a while with all the different options that they are. And again, it's like learning its own programming language on that. So that's kind of scary. Similar with AI.
There's one thing that is not scary in my opinion, and that is, you just said, Jan, that you might give it to your designer fully, or you give it to an AI. But this comes with an overhead, because AI might be likely to create JavaScript again, and or doing fancy stuff around what you need, and do a composed result. But if you have a canonical solution in CSS, that avoids a lot of boilerplate, in my opinion, and overhead. And so this is in itself, in my opinion, a good thing. Less code, less errors and stuff.
Yeah, and the interesting thing here, what I gave, I can actually really see if there is any CSS in this, because I gave just HTML and CSS file to the AI. So unless, let me quickly do, is there any script in here? No script. So the AI kind of took it that it cannot do anything else, which but in a larger project, that is very, very unlikely. And it's not just the new stuff, which so far it's been kind of working out pretty fine, but also some of the older stuff. And this is a few things that I kind of want to highlight that I even didn't know, and this has been around for a while, is that you can actually make a checklist in pure CSS. And as you can see, it does all the, I don't have to have any JavaScript that will check if it's checked, because I can do it with classes. And this is not something that's new. This is something that's been around
crazy.
for a while. And then you just do here, you can use the class, and then let's check its input checkbox. There is here this checked, and then you can do plus label, before, and background, or if it's how it's going to look. And it's there's something that I want to on Monday on my stream. What I'll probably do is I'll upgrade the check to do demo for Meteor with this, just because one of the side effect of this is, of course, is that I don't have to put in JavaScript to kind of put in the value and do all the checking and change manually the class behind, and that saves performance, because again, that's something less that I have to worry about, which I think for me that's kind of the main thing as how I with CSS is, put as much into CSS, because as you said, Jan, it might use the GPU, so it saves the processing. It's less thing that JavaScript has to kind of run through, and as a result, I have more space in the JavaScript for other things, or in general, I'll make my page faster, at least in theory.
Yes. Not only faster, but I think also less error prone, because in the end, CSS is, as I said, it's canonical. It has a finite implementation. There is no, if there is a bug in CSS, it would be a huge thing, but usually it's very stable. So when the browser implements it correctly, unless we talk about Safari, the new Internet Explorer, then we have a very stable set of implementation. You know what you get, what you expect. Okay, there might be some people now out there throwing tomatoes at me because they say, I know these and that CSS function, it doesn't behave at all like this because the browser is not implementing it as expected. Then sorry for that, because my take is 10 years out. I'm 10 years behind you. So please let me know if I'm totally wrong here. But that's at least my assumption, that CSS is the stable implementation of these features. And you don't need any JavaScript. It also needs tests and all that stuff.
Yes, but let's kind of go more, I would say, into the specific. Jan, were you aware about the? Oh, sorry, I'm just looking here for comments. Never mind. Very aware of the the calculations. That's something that calc function in CSS that I've been using lately a lot, especially when it comes to calculating the widths, the heights. All that stuff. So I'm kind of trying to gauge how far behind are you on the new CSS stuff.
Yeah, I knew some calculation functions actually, but I didn't know that there is like all these new functions that can be added to it, and in which context to use them. And I have to admit, I avoided them where possible, because to me they felt like this is hacky stuff. Oh, there is no what's the name? Like there is no value I can set, like a percentage value or something. So I need to calculate things, because I don't know, there is a quirk that with some height and scrolling and whatever. So I need to use some calculations, and I thought like I don't want to touch that. But apparently this is far more sophisticated than I thought.
Yeah, so for example, with the calc function, I'll instruct the AI shortly to kind of add an example. What I do is, if I know I need, for example, to have say a box that is just 400 pixels wide, but I also need the padding. And once I add padding or margins, then it will be 400 pixels width plus those two values. So what I can do with calc is, in the width, I can do calc and then say 400 pixels minus, and then the padding or whatever, or margin together. So I can keep the width kind of. That's kind of, for example, where I use the calc, and you will see a few other. Let me just quickly write this down. 10 pixel wide box, but it has padding, and it has padding 1 EM, and it cannot exceed 400 pixels. So let me add that.
So and I was wondering now why shouldn't I use some percentage values combined with no wrap or overflow or something like this? So
Well,
that's where I was out, and why I should
yes.
have to use calc.
So this actually calc is like another good example of that. And one of the things what you can do there is actually, you can combine the units. So say, you want to have, and this is, for example, what I use when you have overflow on like mobile, and I want to have, of course, you can use the overflow as well. But then if you have, say, something that's with 100%, and then you have like a padding, say 3 EM, so it looks nice, or a mobile probably just only 1 EM, then what you have, the total width of that component is 100% plus the 2 EM because of the padding or margin as well, which then means that you might have part of your text being in the overflow, and then you get the annoying part where you can move the page over.
Oh.
So let me
So
see.
so this also means when I have dynamic input, let's say the text is depending on an input field, and so we have a dynamic situation where we don't know the actual size yet. We can use that to adapt to whatever size it's getting. Am I correct?
Yes. Yeah, here is a nice example. So here I put the calculation. Let's see, can I make this? So here we have the calc. Let's see if we can get the, yeah. So here we see the calc box, and here you can see it, calculation 400 pixels minus 2 EM, and then the 2 EM comes from the padding, which is 1 EM. And then when it computes it, it's 367 point something, and then you have the padding, which is 1 EM, so that's 16 pixels, and in total, there's like some margin there as well, but in total, if you kind of add those two numbers together, it's it will be, I think I can probably show it. Oh no, there's just the margin that's there extra. So let me try to remove the margin altogether, so we have it much nicely looking. So I think, let's see, where do we have, width. So in total, this one, now let's see if I can, so it's like 399.99, so there's just like 0.01 pixel, not exactly 400, but it's like super close. So that is, it will always maintain that width. You can do the same thing with height, and you can also then do it for dynamic purposes as well. So this is where it kind of becomes more, you could say, dynamic, which is kind of how things can go, and that's how we kind of use calc, and from that, lot of other things follow.
It definitely raises the complexity, but on the other hand, maybe once understood, it might be also a remedy, because this is much easier than computing things with JavaScript, right?
Absolutely, because if I was to do this in JavaScript, and I have like a utility belt for all these CSS functions, then there is issue. It needs to be doing the same units, so it can do the calculations and all that stuff. And here in calc, I can just combine all the units as much as I want, and it will handle itself internally on that. So that's kind of one of the big, you could say, benefits that exist with this. And then let's let's see. Another thing, of course, that's kind of has become big over the years was, of course, the variables. I think that everybody has, and if you are using some modern CSS, has encountered variables in JavaScript. Sorry, not in JavaScript, of course, in JavaScript, but in CSS, which for me is still a bit wild, and I don't use them probably as much as I should or as I could. So dash dash var, and then you define what it is. So that's especially useful for if you have like a big systems where you can like define variables on the top. Right now, for example, in with styled components and theming, I have a big JavaScript with big object with all the different colors, but I could probably do the same thing just with pure CSS variables, which kind of now makes me think maybe returning just back to pure CSS might be an interesting idea.
So I want to add here why I actually used the variables a lot recently, but I thought they are much older than just recent additions. What I like with CSS variables is that you can do easy theme customization. So, for example, when the theme customization is only about colors, let's say light and dark colors, then you can create variables that apply for light and dark simply in a different way, but the rest remains the same. And what I also really like is that you can override themes. I use WhitePress or WheatPress for documentation, and you can easily extend or change the theme colors just by overriding these variables. And that's it. You don't need to touch anything else. You don't need to create complex stuff. And I think personally this is a much easier thing than in the past, where I had a bootstrap theme and then I had to use these theme generators for everything and override everything and doing full customization and tweaking hours. And now when it's just about some simple color changes, I just override these variables, and this is really a comfort, in my opinion.
Yeah,
and you could even let your users do that.
Well, if we go back like 10 years, there were different Bootstrap themes, and Alim wrote that he kind of outsourced all the CSS stuff to Bootstrap. Here we have comment from Jan Pilgenröder. I usually do my UI with CSS components frameworks. Last few years, that's been Prime React. Haven't heard of that one. I mostly built really functional, standardized UI and stay away from custom CSS as much as possible. That's kind of how I was, but kind of starting with Literal Universe, I've kind of switched that around, that I want to have, kind of want to maintain my own theme, maybe because I wanted something a bit more special, or maybe just because I had some crazy nights, but it has its pros and cons. We have a border box model. Yeah, it's like a lot of other things, and like if we look or think about, kind of going from the table outlines, then to having the different positioning, like kind of golden layout, and now we have flex and we have grid boxes. It's really moving a lot, and things, I would say, especially as programmers, especially if we use all these different frameworks, a lot of that stuff is not adapted until those frameworks adapted. But Jan, since you've kind of taken the CSS state of CSS, what was kind of like the most shocking thing, or something that you were like, oh wow, I really can use this, or this is so out there that it's blowing my mind?
I wouldn't say there was a single feature that actually blew my mind in that case, like, oh, now I can finally do that. It was rather like, oh, there are so many changes and I can do all these things now. I mean, you can not only use calc, you can also use, I don't know, arc, and you can use ifs and all that stuff now. So, and I think the whole combination of that was so mind blowing. And there was a few changes also in the layout. So grids and this whole grid layout we know from Bootstrap, from Tailwind, becomes more and more natural. So apparently the web is gridded. So we have this I mean this grid layout comes from responsive design. So you have certain elements in row or column order, and depending on the size of the screen, they're rather horizontally aligned, or when it's getting squeezed together, they're more like here, like stacked a little bit. And this grid layout is the basis for many responsive designs. And this is already very old, but many of these frameworks did grid layout on their own behalf. So they computed it based on certain widths and heights and things. And now this is built in or more built in. And so I think learning layout and Flexbox, for example, as well, I think this is just fundamentals now. We can consider it not fancy anymore. It's just fundamental. It's a fundamental part of layout, website layout design.
Yeah, the Flexbox cheat sheet is one of my most marks, I would say.
Oh yes.
I
yes.
always forget which one is where.
Yeah.
I have here, kind of what kind of is the basis of this page is a kind of list of different, things that got me thinking. Oh, I want to do this in Meteor. I already mentioned the different, the checklist here in the pure CSS. I want to on Monday hopefully go in and do that. In the demo, or sorry, not in the demo, and the samples. So which I think can be like interesting, because we do have a MeteorJS example with Tail. Then I would like to kind of make one that is pure CSS, and maybe with all the news, it might be, I think, kind of a bit of opportunity to go back to what we had in the old Meteor, a little bit of kind of the default Meteor theme. So maybe a good time to go to the old Blaze UIs that are there, and look at how we can upgrade that. So if somebody's looking for first issue and to learn more about CSS, might be a good idea. And of course, this is kind of mix of what I would kind of like in general, or what I kind of need to learn for Meteor Universe. And as you can probably guess from the first thing here, writing modes, this is something that that I will have to kind of manage, so that we can get different right to left, left to right, and so on for writing. And this is, I think, something that very few people kind of know about in general, unless you're dealing with Arabic, Hebrew, or any of the right to left writing styles. So that's something that I will definitely be learning, because of course we have the horizontal writing mode from left to right. So, and as you can see, there's already a lot of things adjusted. So I will be learning more of that. So of course, then there are some logical properties that I will have to learn about. To kind of learn again, right to left kind of comes into it. And there are new units. That's always what kind of surprised me, that there are still more new units to learn about. And the new ones that are coming up is the large viewport, small viewport, and dynamic viewport units. So I will have to kind of look into what it does. Probably here on desktop, it doesn't really do much, but I imagine that on smaller devices, that's where it's going to come. So of course, more positioning, again, something I have to learn. And then there are containers. So probably not the best examples here, but this one will allow you to kind of create a container and everything that's kind of underneath as you defined. It should be, as you can see there, with additional media queries as well. So that will be super
So
helpful.
Jan,
But
can you explain me with container? Do you mean that I have a div and that has the class name card, and that acts as the container that I define here, saying like, okay, when the card has a minimal width of something, then its children get a certain style, and when it has a width of below 400, then it gets a different style. Is that what do I understand that correct?
let me put here just quickly in the background to AI to improve the example. That is my understanding as well for this, that you can kind of define these containers. You can see here with our container card, and then in there you can define by media query what are the restriction to use what's in there or like inside that container to apply.
Okay.
That is my general understanding of it.
Yeah.
Let's see if AI can
because I was a bit confused.
better example.
Yeah, that would be good, because I was confused, because usually these class names have a dot in the beginning as with the others, and then there is just container card but without a dot. So I was thinking like, is card now a class name, or is this a component name, like a custom component name? You can register a custom component in HTML, you know. But or is it something entirely different? I was unsure about that.
So this is as I thought, this is very similar to the media queries, and because as you see, it's the difference is you have like a container versus media. I also, it kind of follows the multiple ways how to do, could say, a similar or like the same things, just based on what you need. And let me quickly check here. So you don't have name there. So here you have, if the width is bigger than 70 pixels for in this, then card, the heading 2 will be bigger font size, and in this case the width, if the container width, so that will be how it will change. And here you go, you actually have to define the container name. So, or you necessarily have to, in which case I think it will apply for everywhere, but you can kind of define container name, and that will then be kind of used. So if in this case, if the container name sidebar, if the width is bigger than something, then the card, class card, will have bigger font size. So for example, if you can, for example, resize not just like your windows, but like elements, you can make it so that if for example you stretch or like expand one side of the screen like a menu, it will then impact, for example, how big the text or the heading is in the other size. So let's see. We have here.
Oh, no, that's. I think it's made clear, Jan. I'm also a little bit under some time constraints, actually, and I think we have some more articles here, right?
Yeah. So I kind of want to. So let's. There's also calc size, which can help you with, as you can see here, with some animation, and there's just like a lot of those stuff. So there's just like, if you think about it, how CSS is, I think, developing, or at least what I'm seeing, and correct me on if you think see differently, it's really reacting to actually what the different CSS frameworks are doing. If we think back, in the days to like create a module, you had to really go and use Bootstrap or something similar because it was a pain in the butt. But now it's super easy because a lot of the different things like backdrop and all the other stuff around creating your own models has become integrated into CSS, and of course a lot of different graphics.
I mean, it was already with collapsed content, with details and summary as well. I think
Yes.
there is a general demand for these components. They're like de facto standards becoming now for it, but this is also helping us to deliver less JavaScript. And I mean, we all love JavaScript. MeteorJS is basically everything is JavaScript there. This is great for itself, but I think it's cool that we can also ship less JavaScript for these tasks and focus on our core delivery, our core business logic that our app wants to deliver.
Yes.
Again, I have a question. There are we have some more articles in the pipeline, and I just thought we should cover them because I will have to leave soon.
Yes, I just want to very quickly highlight a few things that I think were absolutely awesome. Here you can see what I've been playing here with Scroll Snap, and then in general there has been a lot of new stuff around, we could say, these carousels. So I think very soon we'll see just carousel with pure CSS, which is awesome. Of course, we have the type element here, different custom cursors. So I think that will be a lot of fun that we have here. The typing effect. I can add SVG before I cover this. Different, and of course for sidebar, and kind of going into the articles what we have. Let me just quickly jump to the link so I can show it. And I just have too many screens, apologies. Yeah, there we go. One thing that I want to kind of highlight that I've put in, and this is kind of where we are getting into the typing effects for text and so on, is here this one, 10 use of CSS trick for front-end developers. That covers a lot of these things, and again, typing effects, stuff like that. For example, shadow for transparent images, and then we have the custom cursors where you can put in images as you hover, or emojis in. Let me see, we have here, I had it somewhere. If I can type, or I can just go here. Nope. Apologies. Where did I put it? Custom cursor. Oh no, the AI has changed that. So let me quickly tell it that it's stupid. But as you could have seen previously, custom cursors, that's a lot of fun. That you can change it into the different smileys or images. So I think that's something, little things, especially I think which can be used for feedback. So for example, if you click on submit, and then it takes a while to submit, you don't just have to put in like some hourglass or some scroller on the button. You can also put it onto the mouse, which, if you kind of go back to how it works in the operating system, I would say is much more closer, because if you click something in Windows and it takes a while to process, the mouse changes to indicate that the user should wait, and that they should not be kind of changing things. So that's kind of here, and you can find a lot of these articles online, and I think it's worth it once in a while to kind of look on what you can do. This is also where I have the checklisted pure CSS idea from. want to address something or cover some specific one, Jan?
No, I just wanted that I just wanted to cover them in general right now because again I'm a little bit on a on a time constraint, but I mean they were feeding into the general assumption that we just need less JavaScript and that this is a nice collection everyone should check out, and not only to see what is actually possible, but also to help themselves with their own code bases and getting um, getting it how to say improving on their own.
I
For
think
example,
there was
I don't have. Hmm?
I think there was a nice comment. I think it was from Alim as well, that it kind of feels like a catalog of things, and there's like so many options, which is where a lot of these frameworks come in, and what's the point? And I think the big part, at least how I see it, is to reduce JavaScript, or how much we use different programming, because every time you put in JavaScript or like any other front-end programming language there, which I think right now kind of big one is only JavaScript, or we can with React, all these other things. Again, that adds, as you Jan said, that adds a lot of overhead while moving it to CSS. I would say it simplifies it, and it makes it also easier. It makes it easier to kind of work in more places. You don't have, and it reduces, I would say, the number of bugs. That would be my maybe how I see it.
I mean, I think if you take a look at these, for example, it's all without JS, and we covered that in the past. I don't know if you remember that there was a time around 2022, between 2020 and 2022, before the before the AI hype came and bloated everything with huge boilerplates of code again. There was this movement of no JS delivery. We are delivering websites without JS, and I think it's like frameworks like Astro and the likes, and they came up and promised to reduce all these boilerplate JavaScript code that is just there to create things like this, basic effects that should not be done in JavaScript. And I think from that perspective, it's great because it's not a revolutionary movement anymore, but it's actually now like built in the standard. And the more we have this in the standard, the less we need frameworks. And then we can also raise the question, do we need a framework for everything? And I personally say the more we have in a standard that's making sense, of course, not putting everything in the standard, but the more we have in a standard, the less we need to rely on frameworks, because they need maintenance, they need have their own life cycle, their own technical depth, and so on. So in general, when I'm looking at that all again, I'm personally, on the one hand, overwhelmed by this sheer situation of it's so much, and as we just found out, it's like a catalog. Where can we keep track of all this? On the other hand, I think those people who are on bleeding edge with CSS, for them, the most stuff is not new. So they would not need the catalog. It would be the same as for me with JavaScript features. So coming from that, I think to conclude that from my perspective, I think this is a very, very good development right now.
Yeah, and we have the container thing earlier should really help with issues where you would have to grab a width or height from the one DOM element and jam it into a different DOM element, which is always messy. Yes, that's a good observation. And yeah, I'm kind of like, I think there might be like some awesome CSS and similar, and I fully agree with what you said there. And I'm like thinking, maybe we should make a like a catalog or something, but at the same time, I'm kind of like worried. Okay, is this not, or like if we like do it, maybe say for Meteor, we add, hey, this is how we can use it in Meteor. Are we not creating another CSS framework out of that then? So that would have to be very careful there. Go ahead, Jan.
Yeah, not only that, how long would it take until it's outdated? I mean, that's also a thing. Guys, everyone who's listening right now and who's watching right now, I think you've realized that we didn't ask for likes and subscribe today, because that's the point right now. Hit the like button up as long as you can, as much as you can, so we get bubbled up in the algorithm and other people can find out what we're doing. And also subscribe to the channel so you can support us and you don't miss out any upcoming episodes, because when you hit the little bell there, then you can get notified when a new episode is coming up. And usually like half an hour before the episode starts, you get already notified that it's starting in half an hour, and then you will not miss it anyways. It's every Friday at the same time, but sometimes, I know, we're all busy, and when you subscribe and hit the bell, then you will get notified, definitely.
Yes, and I think I kind of found maybe potential answer for you, Jan, in regards to the could say list or something. There is this, you don't need to use underscore, and I am wondering, maybe we can maybe if there can be maybe something else. Let's I think if you
You
just
don't need JS.
you don't
Yeah.
need to use JS, and then
Yeah.
add CSS there or something. Don't use JS for that, moving features to CSS and HTML. So
you don't need JavaScript. Look, there is. You don't need JavaScript. CSS. Oh.
So we found our solution.
Perfect. Yeah, see. So we can contribute to that.
Yeah, there's a lot of examples here.
Oh my
Let's
God.
see where's the latest.
So Jan,
7 months ago.
there's something I have to leave because I'm a little bit in a hurry. I would ask you to wrap up, and from that point, I wish everyone a happy weekend, and yeah, see you soon, guys.
So I'm going to wrap up. I think we found our potential solution. Thanks a lot, Jan. You don't need JavaScript. I think we can probably then start adapting it more into Meteor itself, and to kind of show you how to use that in Meteor. And yeah, have a nice weekend, everybody, and see you next week, where we return to our existential crisis with AI. So, and with that, let's get this